All right, so maybe you've applied to 20 jobs, maybe 50 jobs. Maybe you're just on the internet scouring, trying to make sense of how to get into this space, and you're about to give up. You're thinking, you know what, maybe I don't even belong here. This is not for me. I don't even know why I try. I'm here to tell you differently. It's not so much about you're not supposed to be here, but it's probably related to what you've been told. There's a lot of myths around what it takes to get into the medical sales industry. And the reality is, what you focus on is the results you'll produce. So if you're focusing on these myths that you've been told, then you're probably going to get a lot of those myths as opposed to the reality of what it takes to get into medical sales. So today we're going to break down the top 7 myths that I always hear from so many about what it means to get into medical sales and how to actually make it happen. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so myth number 1. You need sales experience to get into medical sales. So let's break this down, because the reality is, in the past, a lot of sales reps that were not happy with whatever they were selling looked at medical sales as a space to get into. Doctors are the smartest customers around. You're in the medical field, and the end product is changing patients' lives. And there's just a mass exodus of any kind of sales into medical sales. And that's just the history of the early history of medical sales. So especially the older professionals in the space, they kind of have this messaging around, well, yeah, you need sales experience, but here's the reality. You don't actually need sales experience. In fact, a survey was done in 2023. 96% of current medical sales reps did not have sales experience. Sounds like a really big number, right? And then 50% of hiring managers hired based off of transferable skills as opposed to past experience. So let me talk about what sales experience actually does for you and what you need to bring to the table. So having sales experience lends a few things, and this is why you hear it so much. When you're selling something like copiers or wine or knives, a commodity product, there's a lot of competition and customers can pick from anything. They often don't even need a sales rep. So if you've showed a level of success selling something like that, it tells everyone that you probably know how to get it done. You probably have a lot of grit. You have a serious amount of work ethic, and you know how to evaluate a territory or an area and make sense of how to get something sold. And you need those skills in medical sales. Now, does that mean that because you sold something, you are going to be an amazing medical sales rep? Absolutely not. Maybe you will, maybe you won't. The reality is it's 50-50. But it does mean that whatever you're doing, you need to show transferable skills. So what are those transferable skills? You got to show that you have the grit. You got to show that whatever you're doing, you're told no all the time, and it has no impact on the level of effort you bring every day and the results you can achieve regardless of what the market's telling you. You got to be able to show that. You got to be able to show that when it comes to grit, you can just get down and dirty and make things happen no matter how bleak your environment looks. Those are the transferable skills that hiring managers are looking for. So whether you're a chef or a nurse or a business admin or even a student, you have those experiences, but you just got to sit back and think back to, okay, what do those experiences actually look like? And what did I do that demonstrated that I have the grit, I have the work ethic to make something happen when the odds are not in my favor? And then more importantly, you can't just say it, right? You can't just say, yeah, I did this and assume that they'll understand what you mean. You got to be able to walk through what the experience was. The reality is a lot of these hiring managers don't know what you did. They weren't there. Only you were. So you have the opportunity to say, okay, this is the situation I had. And in this role that I had, this is what I had to do to get this result. I went through A, B, C, D, E. And your factual story will demonstrate the transferable skills that the hiring manager is looking for so that they can say, wow, you were able to pull that off? You could probably do something like that on my team. And that's the reality. So again, it's not about you have to have sales experience. It's about you have to be able to demonstrate the transferable skills you have with whatever you are doing that can translate into a sales environment, especially when you're dealing with a customer like a physician. Okay, myth number 2. You have to have a science degree if you want to get into medical sales. So let's talk about it. Now, 82% of medical sales reps do have a bachelor's degree. There is a reality that you do not need a bachelor's degree into medical sales, but when the statistics show that 82% of them have bachelor's degrees, it kind of makes it a challenge if you don't have one, only because you're competing against people that do. But again, 82% is not 100%. So there's 18% of you out there that with no bachelor's degree that can absolutely get into medical sales. But let's get back to the myth at hand, which is you need a science bachelor's degree. And that is just 100% not true. Now, the majority of medical sales reps actually do not have a science bachelor's degree. A lot of them have a Bachelor of Arts. Maybe I would say about 50-50. Bachelor of Arts, maybe Bachelor of Science, or maybe just unrelated. But here's the thing. It's not about having a science degree or not having a science degree. It's about, can you demonstrate that you can handle the science? And what is the most powerful way to show that when it comes to thinking that you need a science degree with your bachelor's? You actually got to showcase what you can do in the interview itself. Let me put it this way. Having a biology degree and not being able to showcase that you can handle the science in the interview process will do absolutely nothing for you. Nothing. Because the reality is, a hiring manager that's taking a chance on someone that's green to the medical sales space is looking for competency. And they want to be able to believe that even though this person's green, they're most likely going to be able to hit the ground running. And the only way to demonstrate that is to show that you understand the specialty you're going after. You understand the procedures that happen in the specialty. You understand how to show up in the operating room or a clinician's office or a hospital or what have you. And you understand the anatomy behind the procedures, the devices, the drugs, the products, and the space. That's what they're looking for. And you can only do that by actually talking to reps, doing your own research, getting on YouTube, being in a program where you're learning these things, whatever it takes. That's where you're going to get that information to bring to the interview. So it's not about the bachelor's of science or the bachelor's of arts or whatever you have. You have the bachelor's degree, you're halfway there. It's about demonstrating that you can handle this information in the interview process. And by also showcasing that you're the kind of person that does the right amount of due diligence to bring that knowledge that you're leveraging to the table, again, when you get into the interview process. So again, myth number 2, you do not need a science degree to get into medical sales. Myth number 3, if you want to get into medical sales, just apply to more jobs. All right, now this one, I got to spend some time here. Yes, there's a numbers game element to anything that you do. But the difference here that really stands alone when it comes to medical sales is the strategy, the intentional focus. These jobs are not won by flooding the internet with applications. In fact, 2%, I'm going to repeat that number. 2% of submitted online applications lead to an interview. Let that sink in. So if you apply to 200 places in a day, maybe one, but that's not what we're talking about here. If you want to have a lot of interviews, it takes strategic outreach, company research, and intentional follow-up. That's the process. There's no other way around it. Strategic outreach, company research, and intentional follow-up. Only that way will you get true interview opportunities that actually go somewhere. And don't forget, just because you got an interview, if they don't even know who you are or know what you're about or know where you're coming from, you're already shooting yourself in the foot. You want to show up to your interviews empowered because they do know who you are. You've done the diligence. They already have some insight into how you're going to show up. And really, the interview itself is just, landing it and doubling down on what they already believe. But if you don't have any of that working for you, you literally fall into the 2%. So no, getting into medical sales is not about just applying to more jobs. It's about strategic outreach. Okay. Strategic outreach, company research, and intentional follow-up. Okay. Myth number 4, it's all about the money. Got to go medical sales because there's so much money to be made. You're guaranteed to just make millions of dollars. So let's talk about it. Now, in general, medical sales tends to make more money than other industries. It really does. With that being said, 25% of medical sales reps make under $84,000 a year with compensation, regardless where they are in the country. Let that sink in. 25% of medical sales reps make less than $84,000 a year all over the country. So if medical sales is such a hot place with all this money, how can that exist? Here's the reality. Medical sales is not like any other space in the sense that the people that perform regularly do make a ton of money. The people that are average make a lot less, and the people that are not high performers make less than $84,000 a year, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years into their career. The beauty of medical sales is if you're one of those people that chooses to be a top performer, yeah, you can absolutely make $1,000,000 a year. I know many reps making $1,000,000 a year. I know many reps making $300,000 to $600,000 a year, and I know many reps making $150,000 a year. But you got to be someone that performs. You got to be someone that goes in with the right headspace, the right attitude, and of course, the right work ethic. You can't assume that just because medical sales has performers like that, that's going to be you, unless you want that to be you. So again, myth number 4, medical sales is all about the money. Yes, there's money in it, but what's more important than the money is what you're doing, right? The highest performing reps, of course, they love the money they're making. But you know what they love even more than that? They love the impact they're making on the patient. They love the fact that they're just the best of the best. In fact, I know reps that take more pride in being the best in their space than the actual dollar amount they're getting. And the reality is when you focus on being the best, which automatically does the most for patients and the doctors you work with, the money comes. It's inevitable. So in medical sales, that kind of person that truly prides himself in being a standout, truly prides himself in, I'm going to get up every day and be at least 1% better than I was yesterday, and chases that no matter what, yeah, that person's going to make a lot of money. But if you're getting into this only focused on the money, not focused on being the best, not focused on what's happening with the patient, not focused on how to be the complete asset to every physician you work with, then you're going to be in for a very rude awakening in medical sales. All right, myth number 5. To get into medical sales, you already have to know someone or it's not going to happen. Let's talk about it. So you don't have to know one person, actually. You have to know several. If you have a friend that's in medical sales and you think you're a shoo-in, you're going to be in for a surprise. And it's not so much about knowing someone. Let's talk about what that actually looks like. It's about having the right impression on someone that's in the space that can represent you to their company. Knowing someone in medical sales is much more valuable when you know someone from the company you're actually trying to get into. It's cool if you know someone in the space that has nothing to do with the company you want. They can educate you a little bit. They can prepare you that much better than maybe what you could do on your own, or lead you to someone that can help you based on what you want and what you're trying to get into. But knowing someone from the actual company you want, that's where the gold is. And that can be developed from scratch. You don't have to actually know someone. You can literally know no one today, and within a month from now, have a team of people that sing your high praises because you've put your best foot forward, you've shown them what you can do, and they can't wait till you potentially join their team. So it's all about, again, strategic outreach and developing the relationships. And here's another thing. It's one thing to know someone. It's a whole other thing to get to know a group of people in the position or in the company that you want to be in. Because by developing those relationships, that hiring manager is going to assume, look, if they can develop the relationships with people from my company, people on my team like this, imagine what they can do when it's time to develop relationships with the customers they're going to be responsible for if they get the role, right? You're leveraging. It's kind of cool because you're leveraging the process of getting into medical sales to showcase what you can do after you're in medical sales. So again, myth number 5, you have to know someone. You have to have the know-how on how to get to know a number of people that are directly tied to what you want. That's the reality when it comes to getting into medical sales. Myth number 6, a good resume is all you need. You know, the only reason this is listed as a myth is because there are a large enough population of people that still believe this. And that's just not true, right? Resume is the very beginning. Now, do you need a good resume? Of course you do, right? A bad resume can just hurt you. A good resume is the entry level point to even get the conversation started. But it's definitely not all you need. Resume is going to help with the door opening. And in some cases, if your strategic outreach is truly powerful, the resume kind of falls to the wayside. What's important is how you show up, the due diligence, how you showcase yourself that you're going to hit the ground running if you get that job. That's really the golden ticket. Again, a bad resume will probably hurt you. A good resume is just the entry level point to getting into medical sales, and it's going to do very little as far as the rest of the journey is concerned. And then myth number 7, once you get into medical sales, you're set for life. Okay, so there's 2 ways to look at this here. There's some truth to that. But again, there's also seeing that as the biggest lie. And whether there's truth to it or the biggest lie is contingent on the kind of person that you are and the kind of person that you show up to be. Here's the reality. Medical sales is tough. And I'm just going to own it. It's tough, right? Now, it's not tough for everyone, but it's tough for the average person. And you got to level up to hack it, deliver, perform on a consistent basis. 1 out of 10 reps leave the industry every single year. Now, is that going to be you? I hope not. But here's why. The process that you use to get into medical sales is going to show up again once you're in medical sales times 10, right? Strategic outreach, consistent follow-up, due diligence, company research. All of these things play a very huge role in doing the actual medical sales on top of a slew of other things that this video is not long enough to cover, but it's just the reality. So once you get in, that is just the beginning. It's not time that once you get in to sit on your hands and say, okay, I made it. You didn't make anything. You got the opportunity to make something. So now it's time to truly deliver. And one thing I like to tell everyone when it comes to this myth is the way you show up and how you try and get this job is going to show up again when you have it. So if you find yourself right now listening to this saying, yeah, I tried it. Oh, I don't know, Samuel, it's too hard. Or, I've applied so many places or that attitude is going to show up again. If you somehow magically get in anyway, that attitude is going to show up again and you're going to lose it. I think what frustrates me the most is when someone really finally gets serious about getting into medical sales and they invest in a program. Maybe it's something that we have and they're showing up, they're doing it and they get the job and we're like, yes. And then for some reason, they believe that they can now sit on their hands and then they lose the job and they have to do it all again. Here's the reality. Again, what you do now to get this job and the way you show up is going to show up again. So do yourself a favor. Take every opportunity seriously. Everybody you meet, treat it like an interview. Don't leave it to the wayside when you meet someone or you have the interview, you don't get the job. Stay in contact with them. Treat this like it's everything. And when you get that job, double down on that and you will find success. So if you're still not sure where you belong, if you've been looking and you're like, you know what, Samuel, I don't even know I'm supposed to be in medical sales. We created the Medical Sales Match. It's a tool that's going to help you identify exactly what specialty makes the most sense for you. Getting into these fields, getting into these jobs of medical sales, there's a path for you. It doesn't mean you belong in the operating room. It doesn't mean you belong in a clinician's office. It doesn't mean you belong in a hospital. There is a path for you, though. And what people don't understand is medical sales is vast. There's medical device, there's trauma, there's pharmaceutical sales, there's medical supply sales, there's diagnostic, there's software sales in medical devices, there's software sales in medical supplies. I mean, there's so many different places to be that make sense just for you. But you won't know how to get there unless you do years of research. Why not cut it all down and use a tool that we created for you to find out within 10 minutes where you're supposed to be and then double down on it, hone in on it. When you can find your specialty and you know the one that speaks to you and you focus in that space, that's when you cut all this time you're spending by 75% and finally get in front of an interview, blow them away because it's aligned to what you know how to do anyway. And now they're like, I can't wait for you to be on the team and you get the offer. This is what the Medical Sales Match tool can do for you. So if you want this tool, if you're ready to get it, comment the word ready. No more guessing, no more wondering, no more twiddling your thumbs, hoping that something happens and it's time to take action and get somewhere. Comment the word ready and let's get you access to something that's going to change your life, set you in alignment with the program that can do things you've never seen before and finally get you the offer and all these wonderful myths. You get to actually live the reality of them and live your best life.